Oh, look at you. Aren't you just perfect? I've been waiting for this day for a very, very long time. And you certainly don't disappoint. You're everything I imagined my first donor would be. Perfect. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just a bit excited. I think I'm getting ahead of myself a bit. My name is Lilith. It's lovely to meet you. I'll be your vampire patron this evening for your blood donation. Thank you ever so much for choosing to become a donor here at the Blood Cafe. You're doing a wonderful service, not just for us vampires, but really for all of humankind. You see, it's places like this that keep bad vampires like me off the streets looking for their blood. But you waltzed right into here, didn't you? Ready to give yourself completely to a vampire of your choosing. And you chose me. Little me, who's been waiting for so long for this moment. Oh, you don't know what I'm... Oh, well, you see, it's rather an extensive process to be turned to a vampire. And even once you're turned, there's a bit of time before you're actually allowed to meet a donor. Do you know what it's like to be turned into a vampire? I mean, obviously you've not experienced it yourself, but do you know much about the process itself? Okay, well, a lot of things happen all at once. And the first thing that you notice, once you've turned from the living to the undead, the first thing that you notice, it's not the increase of power. Although, of course, that's there. That's part of the equation. It's also not the increase of senses. Your sense of smell, your sense of sight. Everything is heightened. But that's not the first thing that you notice either. No. The first thing that you notice after you've been turned is the deep, ravenous hunger. It feels like you've never eaten before in your life. It's really quite intense. So you see, when you're first turned into a vampire, there's a bit of time where you're a bit unpredictable, perhaps you could say. So, here at the Blood Cafe, they don't let you actually see a donor until you've learned to control your urges a bit more. And even then you have to really prove that you're ready. So it's been quite a while that I've been waiting to meet my very own donor. And it's you. And aren't you just delicious looking. This is your first time, right? Your first time being a donor at the Blood Cafe. Well, I'm honoured that you've chosen me as your first vampire patron. I'm sure that they gave you a few different vampires to choose from, right? And you picked me. Well, isn't that delightful? Yes, truly. There's something special about you. I'm sure you think all vampires say that, but really there's something quite tantalizing about your scent. You must be a very special human. I could sense it as soon as I walked into the room. You see, as vampires, you also get this extra sense where you just know things about people. It's quite interesting, really. And I just know that there's something very special about you. Oh, darling, are you feeling a bit nervous? I suppose I am coming on a bit strong, aren't I? Especially for someone who it's their first time. I'm sorry. Let's back up a bit, all right? I've waited so long for this, but I do want to do it right. I want you to enjoy this too. I mean, why would you come to a place like this if you didn't want to enjoy it? At least a little bit, right? Just a little bit. You know, it's funny, some people really romanticize the idea of vampirism. I'll admit I had times when I was a little human like you. I'm still considered one of the youngest, freshest vampires here. Yes, it's quite funny. You know, you could meet all kinds of vampires here, and all of them may look young and beautiful. But pretty much all of them are old enough to be your grandparents. And most of them are actually quite a bit older than that. Yes, it's interesting being here. That's for certain. Now, of course, we vampires have rules. Yes, we have a certain code that we live by. It didn't always used to be like this, but here at the Blood Cafe, at least, we like to make sure that you, as the human, are perfectly comfortable. So, I'm not going to do anything that you don't want me to do. Now, personally, I think that there are quite a few vampires here who make this whole donation thing into quite an ordeal, really. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very excited to get started. But they treat it as if it's some sort of stoic ritual, really. When honestly, I just want to have a bit of fun. Maybe that's what you want too, seeing as you picked me. Yeah? We could do that. We could have some fun, you and I. Well, since it is your first time, perhaps we should take things just a little bit slow. At least to start out with, darling. I wouldn't want you to get in a bit over your head. No, it's all right. like I said, I want you to feel perfectly comfortable before we get started. So maybe let's start out talking about how you would like the donation to happen. There's quite a few options, you know. Oh yes, no. It's not really a one-size-fits-all thing. You know, I think many people, when they think of a vampire feeding, their thoughts naturally go to the neck. Just little bites right here as I get nice and close to you. That is, of course, an option. I think it's probably the most common way that people do it around here. Especially because, personally as a vampire, that blood, the blood rushing through your neck, is some of the most tantalizing. It's some of the most oxygen-filled blood. It flows very nicely. It's nice and hot. Even a bit spicy, almost. I'm not sure, that's not quite the correct word, but it's close. Spicy, almost spicy. Yeah, we'll go with spicy. It's definitely a right lot better than surviving on blood bags, that's for certain. I mean, a vampire can survive on just drinking blood from blood bags, but it almost tastes stale, really. And there's not nearly the life energy. Not really, not anymore. It's always much more satisfying to get it from the source. And then you don't need to feed as often either. It's much, much better to get it directly from a human. So we could do the neck if you wanted. Or we could also do the wrist. Just a little bite right there. We could do that. In fact, you know, even if the hold on just a moment. Even if the idea of a bite seems a bit harsh to you, we could draw the blood a different way as well. I've got nothing against using something like this. Just a little cut on your neck, perhaps, or just a bit on the wrist or the arm, and then I can lap it up. Yeah, something like that could certainly work too. It's really entirely up to you, darling. In fact, some people like to start with just the smallest little prick on their little finger. It's perfectly fine too. Although, in my experience, my limited experience, once you do the finger prick, it's enough to get both parties involved rather excited. So that generally leads to more, usually. So, those are some of our options on how exactly the feeding should go. It's really up to you, darling. The neck, of course. You know, that is a favourite of the of vampires, but I think that it's also a favourite of humans as well. Just because it does feel rather intimate. Is that the right word? Maybe it is. Intimate. Yeah, we could do that. I'm more than happy to sample your neck. You do smell just divine, darling. You really do. Just a moment, let me put this back. It doesn't sound like we'll be needing that. Not this time, anyway. Now, if you would like, before we get started, could also have just a bit of this. See, this is a special sort of concoction developed here at the Blood Cafe that is supposed to help calm any sort of nerves. Yes. It numbs the pain just a little bit and just helps you relax a bit. You know, some vampires, especially some of the older ones, they don't necessarily need something like this because quite often they have developed different sort of powers along the way. It's something that I'm told comes with time of being a vampire, seeing as I'm rather fresh meat, so to speak. I don't have any sort of extra powers yet, but there are some vampires around here that are quite well versed in the art of hypnotism, so they could just hypnotize you into thinking that you're not feeling any pain. And then there are some who actually can completely take away any pain that you're feeling. Rather nice. Although, oftentimes, the vampires who are old enough to have skills like that are also the most stuffy, the least fun. The ones who spend most of their time talking about the old days when vampires used to be able to do whatever they wanted. I mean, it does sound interesting, I suppose. But I've got nothing wrong with consent. I suppose you could say. Especially with a lovely facility like this. I don't see why we can't both enjoy the experience. I get what I want. Your blood. Your life energy. And you get what you want. Handsomely compensated by the cafe, obviously. As well as, what is it exactly that appeals to you? The thrill. The idea of danger. The being at the mercy of a creature far more powerful than you. Yeah. No judgment here, love. We don't judge. Trust me, the vampires here have heard it all. I maybe haven't heard quite everything yet, but I'm sure I will soon. One of these days. So, if you wanted, you could have a little sip of this. It doesn't take much, just a little bit. And that will help. Just sort of relax you. Relax any sort of nerves. First time jitters. And then help ease some of that preliminary pain as well. Now, before you're actually turned into a vampire, they do require that you are fed upon so that you know what it feels like. And in my experience, there is that initial moment of pain of the bite, but it's more of a pain that feels good. A good pain. The initial prick can be a bit shocking, but After that, you might find that you rather enjoy it. I know I sure did. You'd like a sip of this? Of course, darling. Whatever is going to make you the most comfortable your first time. There. That should start acting very quickly. Why don't I go put this away? I'll be right back, okay? You just sit there and start to relax. 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 Just a moment. There we are. How are you feeling, darling? Good. You're looking much more relaxed already. Much more at ease. Good, good. Now, before we start, I thought that we could maybe play around with a few different things. Although, maybe since this is your first time, we could save this for next time, eh? Like I said, I'm not going to do anything that you don't want me to do. Unless you want me to. There's all sorts of things that we could do to sort of experiment. As time goes on. As time goes on. There's no rush, darling. There's no rush. Well, certainly for me. I've got many years to experiment. But you look like you've still got plenty of life in you. Yeah. We could have lots of fun together. For a very long time. If you wanted. Let's see how you do the first time first, maybe. Before we start making any sorts of promises. You know, I have heard that every once in a while a human thinks that this is something that they want. And then, after their first sort of preliminary donation, they never come back. It's alright. It's not for everyone. Like I said, we don't judge and we don't shame here. But I don't think that'll be the case with you. Something tells me you might enjoy this. Well, whatever the case, I'm down for anything, darling. Anything at all. Alright. You're definitely looking much more relaxed now. Lovely. Do you think that you are ready to begin then? Good. Now, yes to the blindfold or no to the blindfold? I mean, it could be a not right now. Of course, it doesn't have to just mean no forever. Not right now. Not a problem. Not a problem at all, darling. Like I said, we have lots of time where we could have lots of fun together. If that's what you wanted. But I think you're right. Just getting to know one another. This first time is probably best. Good. Now, a common technique that I've seen other vampires use is preparing their donors by just counting down before the actual bite. Is that something that you would like me to do? Of course, of course. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe even as I count down, you'll start feeling even more relaxed. Or maybe the anticipation will begin to mount. That's a possibility too, I suppose. Alright, then let's start counting down, nice and slow, and we'll see where this goes. Okay. 10. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. 0. I was right about one thing, darling. You are positively delicious. You know, if I was any newer of a vampire, it would have been quite difficult to stop. It's alright, darling. That's why the Blood Cafe does things the way that they do. But it's still a bit tempting, with blood as intoxicating as yours. How are you feeling, my dear? Good, good. Not too bad. Don't worry, my darling. You'll be well taken care of after this, too. This room is yours as long as you need it. You're welcome to rest in here. And I'll get you any sort of food or drink or anything like that we have here as well. So don't you worry about being a bit dizzy. Perfectly normal, especially the first time. But you did so well, darling. You hardly flinched at all. Something told me that you would. That you'd be excellent at this. I don't know, it's just sort of this feeling that I had about you. I was right, wasn't I? Are you ready for the other side? We can we can stop now, if that's what you would like. But if you think that you could handle a bit more... Yeah. Alright. I promise I'll be perfectly gentle. Would you like me to count down again, darling? Or just go for it? I was sort of hoping you'd say that. Alright, my dear, why don't you tip your head a bit this way then? There we are. Here we go. Alright. Okay. I think that's enough. We don't want to overdo it now, do we? Especially not for your first time. As delicious as you are, as much as I would love to take a bit more, I also don't want to scare you away. Like I said, darling, this could be just the beginning. If that's what you want, at least. I, for one, would be perfectly pleased to continue this little arrangement. But of course it's up to you. Like I said, we don't do anything without consent here. So it's completely up to you. But darling, you did so well. Really, truly. You're everything that my first donor that I could have dreamed of. Everything. From the smell to the taste. And you're certainly not bad to look at either, are you? No, you're not. I couldn't have asked for a better one. For my first donor. I hope that the experience was equally alright for you too. Good. No. I'd better not take any more. I don't want you to start feeling too dizzy. I mean, a bit of dizziness, of course, is to be expected, but we wouldn't want to push it. Not your first time. You think you could... You'd like to go again? Well, as tempting of an offer as that is, I think what's best for you right now is to try to get some rest, my dear. You may be still feeling the rush, the excitement of the feed, but that may fade and you may feel yourself getting a bit tired. Well, a bit more tired. And we wouldn't want you to push yourself. Not this first time, anyway. So, why don't I help you get some rest? Then when you wake up, you can have some food, have some juice, wine perhaps if you'd like that. We have a few different options of different things that you can have here. And then maybe I'll see you later when you're ready to donate again, hey? Marvellous. But for now, you'd better just sleep. Or at least close those tired eyes and get some rest. I remember what it felt like after my first time being bitten. The excitement of it all. But also feeling very tired and just needing some rest. Sure, I can stay with you for a little while. I wouldn't mind that at all. But you have to promise me that you'll still be resting. Alright? Alright. So why don't you close those eyes? Looks like they're already starting to feel quite heavy. And then we'll see about getting you some food, alright, darling? Alright. But for now, just rest. 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 Rest.